Welcome back to another episode of Living the Sky Life. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening. My guest today, I finally had the chance to actually talk to and meet. Several weeks ago, I was on a live with her on her platform, Not Your Average Autism Mom, which we'll talk about a little bit more here in a little bit. But welcome to the podcast, Shannon.
Thank you so much, Lori. I'm so glad that we got the chance to connect.
I know we have so many mutual virtual friends. It's like,
We
how do you
do.
even phrase that anymore? Because I don't know in person. I haven't met a lot of the people, but I think you just attended Adrian's event. So you got to meet a lot of people maybe you
I
hadn't met
did.
before.
I did. It was great. Yes, it was
Yeah,
super good.
it's great to meet people in person that share a similar life to ours,
Yeah,
right?
and I think that was the thing with us. Like our lives are really there's a lot of mirroring in our stories, yours and
hmm
mine.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's dive into your story. So, for people that aren't familiar with you and your son Jordan, who is 27, can you tell us a little bit about just your family and a little bit about Jordan growing up and then who he is today as an adult man?
Sure,
So,
absolutely. Well, it's kind of funny. Lori and I started our conversation off this morning of me telling her how he had to have a shower do over this morning. He is 27. I am mom to two amazing young adults. Jordan is 27 on the spectrum and was diagnosed when he was 5 years old. At that time, they diagnosed PDD NOS, right?
love it.
Pervasive developmental delay. And at that time, they told us like they didn't diagnose autism until 9 years old. Like that was the earliest that they would diagnose autism at that
What?
time. But they ended up, he did get a diagnosis just shortly after the PDD NOS because I really pushed for that diagnosis because he had started kindergarten and that wasn't a good setting and situation, and he needed more individualized care. And then he also has a younger sister, Madison, who is 25 now. And Jordan was, I always say, I always wished that I got the nice autistic child, right? The one that was nice, that everyone loved and was just really sweet. And that
That
was just
exists?
not,
No, I'm
yeah.
just kidding.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I have a couple of moms in my membership and I'm like, oh, why didn't I have a child like Nikki? He's so sweet. But Jordan always had behavioral challenges. Always, from second grade teacher quitting because he threw chairs and flipped over tables, and
Mm,
he was very Jordan is he speaks, so he's verbal, but he's not communicative.
okay.
So he doesn't communicate with his words. Even at 27, he still would never come home today and tell me a story about what happened during his day. So I say that, yes, he is verbal or he is speaking, but he's really not,
Is it more like
in
2 or 3 word kind of conversations back and forth
it's
or
it's more, Lori, about talking at me. So
okay.
he will tell somebody what he wants to tell them, but he's not conversational. So there's not a lot of back and forth conversation, and there is literally no storytelling. Hi, how was your day? Fine. That's all you get.
Mhm.
What did you do today? Nothing. Still at this point.
Yeah.
Um, and so growing up, it was very, very difficult because school didn't know what to do with him. I mean, they looked to me for answers that I didn't have. And I think that was probably my biggest challenge was that, the phone calls about this is what he did, what should we do? And I was like, I don't know. Aren't you guys the experts? Like,
Mhm.
he was my first kid. Like, I don't know what to tell you to do, which is what actually led me to get into special education advocacy because I knew that if I didn't figure this out and understand that he was not going to be successful.
There are a
And
lot of moms who've
so,
gone into that because
yeah,
of their own
because of
children,
that.
just trying to figure out your own child, and then once you learn all that stuff, like, why not share the wealth with
And
other
that's
parents?
exactly what happened is I was like, I have figured this out. And, with a last name like Urquiola, everyone in the school district knew who we were, right? They saw that name and they were like, "Oh no, like here she comes, again. And I think that, and I had to do that for him because he was not going to make it if I didn't. I mean, he
Hmm.
was an eloper. He's very impulsive. Uh, if he wants something or wants to go see something, he's fast when he wants to be. And especially then, they lost him in the elevator. He escaped from, every locked playground there was, so that was all very tough. And so growing up was very difficult. And I actually divorced their father when Jordan was 5 and Madison was 3. And
It's
I know
funny
we're
because
gonna.
we talked about that. I mean, we do have so much in common, even the ages,
Yes,
um, of your
yes.
kids being 2 years apart and then your divorce at 3 and 5, similar to mine. I mean, and yeah, we can get right into it. I mean, that's one of the reasons with you and I connecting, that I wanted you to be on specifically this part of my podcast series on marriage and relationships, because as I've said before, I don't think enough moms particularly talk about marriages that end in divorce. And I think people commonly think it's because of autism, it's because of our children, and it's not. There were underlying issues in our relationship anyway, and I don't know about yours, that were already kind of festering, and that just kind of, that extra added stress just puts it over the top. But I love people who are vocal about that situation and then coming out of it on the other side with an amazing partner, and just helping other moms who might be in that same scenario of not sure if they should divorce and all of the stress that comes with being a single mom and all of that. So please continue. I want to hear kind of how that transpired for you and how you got the courage
Yeah,
to
sure.
get the divorce, I guess.
And I will tell you, it was a very hard decision. I mean, we had just built a house. We were in the
Us
process
too.
of, like, we had literally had the hole dug for our pool in the backyard when I said I want a divorce.
Oh,
And I think, Lori, my whole thing was, and yes, we hear the statistics about, you know, marriages with autism in the family ending in divorce. No, that wasn't the reason. Like you said, I think there were a lot of underlying things. And I think the biggest push for me was I wanted to do it when they were young because I knew if I stayed that I would do it later and it would be much harder.
mm-hmm.
Even though, we had just built this house, we were building a pool, all the things, I just knew in that moment, if I don't do it now, I'm going to do it later and it's going to be much worse. And it was very, very hard. I mean, I will just say, first of all, it was a hard decision for me to make, but yet because I felt so strongly about not wanting to do it when they were older and would remember it. It was easier for me. He had a very hard time. It was very, very difficult for him emotionally. Just everything was
Did he
very
not
hard for him.
see it coming? I mean, is it
No,
not anything he wanted?
no,
Okay, I gotcha.
it it was not. And but he knew that I had made the decision. And
Hmm.
so I will say that we did divorce. Our divorce was very streamlined. I filed all the paperwork. We did not have lawyers involved. Like, we did everything. We
Yeah.
went to the courthouse together. We actually went to lunch after we got divorced that day.
Same with
So
us. All of it was the exact same. We
isn't
shared
that
an attorney to
crazy?
do the paperwork, and I didn't contest anything. He didn't contest anything. We made a list of what we wanted to keep in the house and who was getting what, and it was a business transaction, which
Yes,
is all the more
yes.
reason it was a good decision on my part because
Exactly, exactly,
so
and I felt the same way, and now I did leave him the house.
yeah.
I quit claim deeded him the house because, you know what, that it was his house. Like,
Hmm.
that was a house he really wanted, and I was okay starting over. Um, and so we divorced and we co-parented together for, years to come. They lived solely with me, but
Okay.
they did visit him. He is and always has been the fun dad.
Mm.
Like, take them to the movies, go to Disney World. That's what he does. And still to this day, they're getting ready to go on a trip to go see him, which is a whole nother thing, but they're going to, Universal Studios and Halloween Horror Nights. That's just the kind of dad that he has always been. He's always been that fun dad, which is good because that's not really my thing. Like,
Well,
I
you
don't
don't
want to
have
go to
time
the
because you're managing all the other stuff, the stressful
exactly,
stuff.
exactly. And so when I divorced him, I got into another relationship, short term for a couple years that was very negative for me in many ways, but it was also very positive for Jordan. And I will say that because the relationship that I got in at that time, uh, he was more like a big kid. So he handled Jordan really well. Where um, Jordan's father at the time was resisting autism.
Hmm.
It was very, he didn't want, of course, he wanted to think that he was going to get past it,
Hmm.
that this was just something that he would grow out of. And when I got in this other relationship, he was willing to take him to Home Depot and take him to the grocery store and take him places where I'd never had that before. That relationship was short lived. It was very toxic. And then from that point on, I said, no more. I am not looking for a relationship. I'm going to be, completely just a mom because that's what I need to be. I did not have a good childhood growing up. I didn't have good, stable parents. There was a lot of alcohol involved and it was just messy, right? And so I wasn't going to be that mom.
Hmm.
And so I made the decision that I would be a single mom until my children were grown and out of the house. And so my current husband that I'm married to now, Dave, who is amazing. I was actually thinking last night, I was like, how old were they? Well, Dave and I started dating in 2008. So, so Madison was 10 and Jordan was 12. And when we started dating, I said to him, listen, just so you know, like, I'm not looking to get into a committed live in relationship, get married, nothing until my kids are grown. So I said, we can date and you can hang around, but I'm not doing anything until Madison graduates high school, which was 2016. So he waited quite a while.
Well,
And
you're
I will
worth it,
say,
so that's nice.
you know what? It was worth it. We dated and he had his home and I had mine in Florida. And, he'd come for dinner, but he never spent the night. My kids never woke up to him in our house. It was just something that I was just committed to. And then when Madison graduated high school in 2016 and was going away to college, I said, listen, I'm want to move to Blairsville, Georgia, little town in the mountains of Georgia, North Carolina. And I said, I would love for you to go with me, but you would have to retire. He worked for Publix for 38 years. And I said, there's no Publix there. So, and so the plan was originally I was going to move here and he was going to travel back and forth. And there were just some medical things that came up for him before I was moving. And so he decided to move with me. And in 2016, the U-Haul came to his house and picked up all of his stuff and came to our house and picked up all of our stuff and we moved here. And so, it's been amazing. I think it was definitely God's plan because we would have never lasted had we tried it when Jordan was, in middle school and high
Hmm.
school. It was so challenging that his behaviors were so challenging through those years that Dave would have never I could have never allowed somebody else to enter behind our closed doors.
Hmm. Yeah.
It was just very, very, very hard time.
How did Jordan mainly do with the divorce and seeing his dad, just occasionally on, vacations or weekends or whenever you guys like figured that out? My biggest concern that I still have, because I don't know, Skylar can't tell me yet how it affected him. We did week to week custody, split everything down the middle 50-50. So it was Monday to Monday. So when they would go to school, the next person would pick them up. I didn't want it to be like a split week because I just was worried. They were little, obviously 3 and 5 too. And as they got older and Kendall got more involved in dance and things, I was like, don't, if it's like a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday switch, she's going to end up leaving her stuff at her dad's and we're going to have to
Right.
constantly be going to each other's house. And I don't really want any more interaction with him than I need. So, but I just worried about Skylar, like having 2 bedrooms and having really 2 sets of rules and like life because I, like you, I had the PEX book everywhere we went, and I was trying to get him to be more independent with holding his toothbrush and just doing all the things. And my ex was not involved in it when we lived together, and he didn't have any interest in doing any of the things. So I think that's one of the reasons potty training never took for us. I mean,
Because there
in
wasn't
large part because of Skylar
consistency.
too, but yeah, because you can't do week on intensive potty training and then they go to the other house and they don't do any of it and he's just in pull-ups the whole time. So I just feel like Skylar got sabotaged a little bit and I felt guilty about that. Very
Right.
guilty about that. So did Jordan have behaviors that increased or anything that you kind of felt was because of
You
the
know,
arrangement being
he
different?
only see, ours was different. So we
Mhm.
weren't week on, week off, which was definitely, I think, better for them. They would go see their dad 2 weekends a month. So literally, I would meet him on Friday and I'd meet him on Sunday.
Mhm.
So like they, that was basically when they would see him is 2 weekends a month. So no, I don't we didn't have any of that really, and again, they were little.
Mhm.
I think the same as they got older, you probably had the same thing with Kendall that I had with Madison. There were times when she had stuff going on, and so she didn't, it gets to the point where I don't wanna go to my dad's this weekend because I wanna go here, I wanna have my friends over, and I think that was more challenging, but for Jordan, Jordan is very, socially he's not social. So he, I always say if he could just talk to one person the rest of his life, that would be me. And he'd be perfectly fine with that. Like literally. Um, but he never had any struggles like that. Now, I will say that as he's gotten older, he has, we moved here in 2016. This is 23. They're getting ready to go to their dad's. This is only the third time since we've lived here that he has gone down to see his dad.
Gotcha.
So his sister said that the last time they were there, that she could tell that like he was uncomfortable, that he is just more comfortable being with me. I mean, that's just the reality of
Well,
it.
it
And
makes
she said, I
sense. Yeah.
I really think that mom, when you're not around, he's just really uncomfortable. And he knows dad loves him. Like I tell him that, on the regular, but he also has very heightened anxiety when something is going to happen. So, um, I would catch him like when he knew he was going to go in the morning, he would wake up and he would be saying very negative, mean things like in his room just to himself that I've never said, but he was old enough to be able to, say those things. And so, but I know that was his anxiety, like leading up to being gone from me and being with his dad, even though I know when he's doing those things with him, he's having a great time. Look, Halloween Horror Nights is his favorite thing in the whole world.
It's great that
He
it doesn't
knows I'm
scare
not
him.
going to go with him.
Yeah.
I'm a big chicken.
Me too. That stuff scares me to death. I hate
Yeah, me too.
it.
Same.
Well, how does Dave, it's Dave, right? Your husband?
Uh-huh.
How how did they do initially when he first, met the kids and interacted with Jordan? Did he just kind of like sit back and observe you a little bit just to kind of see, or did he and Jordan
Yeah.
hit it off from the first day?
Well, like I said, Jordan's not social. So it's not like there was, a relationship building. Like I think through those years from 2008 to 2016, Jordan was 12 to 20. So Dave would come over for dinner, we'd go out somewhere and Jordan would go with us. I think Dave was really just monitoring and paying attention to our relationship, to how I interacted with him. And then when we moved here and moved in together, Jordan was 21. So he was an adult. So Dave never had to take on really that father role because Jordan was 21, but he did have to take on the authoritative role, right?
Hmm.
Like, these are the rules. This is what we do. Dave is going to be part of our lives. Like, we had to have that conversation of pretty seriousness, that if I'm not here and Dave says something, that's the rule. And
Hmm.
so I think there was probably some resistance during those initial, year or two. And now we're at the point where, I mean, Dave says that Jordan's better when I'm gone
That's
than
funny.
when I'm here. So never, Lori, you were just talking about, I just went to, the Tails weekend with Adrian, and never in all my years did I ever think that I'd be able to leave my child for
Hmm.
5 days or 7 days, with somebody. And Dave is, basically the only other person that he's ever been left with for an extended period of time. And they do great together.
Oh,
Dave
that's awesome.
Dave helps him be more independent than I do. I am super
Hmm.
guilty and I talk about it all the time. I think it's the mom in us, right? We're protective of them. There's times when I'll be in my office and I'll hear like something going on out there and I want to go interject because it's like I want to rescue him from whatever.
Hmm.
And I have to just tell myself, they're fine. They do this when you're not here. Stop interjecting because that's why he's so attached to me.
Hmm. Yeah, it's going to be hard, future projections, like to break that, because obviously you're not going to be here forever. And that's my biggest fear too, is trying to engage Skylar with people outside of Josh and myself, because he's used to just us two.
Yeah.
And I don't want him to rely on us forever, because that's just not reality. But how do you let go enough of the,
It,
I mean, I am attached at the hip to that kid, even
yeah,
though it
me
drives me crazy that he
too.
needs me so much. I need him too, if I'm being honest. And I just don't know I just can't anticipate how horrible it's going to be for me. I'm worried about him, but it's me that it's probably going to have a worse time, breaking free of him.
It's funny you say that because last night, Jordan he will go into he has a living room area that's his own, and so he'll go in there at night, and Dave and I will be in our living room, and we'll hear him, and I mean, he talks to himself and laughs and cracks like no one would ever doubt that he's happy when he's in there. And I just looked at Dave and I said, like, this is our life, right? And we feel so blessed. But I looked at him and I said, can you imagine like if we didn't have him? Like, I
Hmm.
literally feel like our life would be so boring. I, I
Hmm.
like, and again, like you said, because we're so attached, but he's 27, but
Hmm.
yet it's just, this is our life. And like, I feel like it would be so weird if he wasn't here.
Yeah, I think it's for me, it's the constant state of Skylar's childishness, I guess, and just how much he appreciates like the littlest things. I just told him over the weekend, like, just kind of randomly, my favorite part of the day is going in his room and waking him up in the morning, because I hear him, he's up, and we give him a medication, and then we leave him for a few minutes and we come back, do his shower and stuff. And I walk in and he pops right up. We have a Dutch door, a half a Dutch door over his bed. And he puts his arms on there and he's just like, it's like, hey, bartender. I mean, he just has the biggest smile on his face, and I'm like, good morning, and he just laughs. He's just so happy about life and to be awake and to start the day. And I just, that's the part of him that I'm going to miss so much if he doesn't live here,
Yeah.
is just waking him up in the morning and being the first person to see his smile. But the days where he hits me all day, I'm like, man, I
Right.
can't wait until he's not living here
Exactly.
every
And
day.
when I'm not gonna have to do this one day,
So
like,
it's kind of an even trade.
yeah.
Those are the things we have to get used to. Well, when you met Dave though, did you just kind of come with it in the very beginning and say, hey, listen, I have a son who's on the spectrum, and whatever, just kind of the package deal like I explained that I said to Josh
I
because
did.
I didn't want him to run halfway through us really getting to know each other, and I liked him, and I'm like, please, please don't run. So I just told him day one.
Yeah, I told Dave right just like you. I told Dave right from the beginning, which was the reason that I told him that I was not willing to bring somebody else into our world
Hmm.
because Jordan was 12 and I had been dealing with those negative behaviors and I knew the teenage years were going to be much harder. And I told him, like, look, this is, we have autism. I don't know what that's going to look like. I can tell you that the battles and the things that I'm dealing with now are not fun. And it's just not something that, I'm willing to allow somebody else to come in and experience. But I want you to know about it because if you decide to stay, then this is going to be our reality, right? Like Jordan is not going anywhere. He's, likely going to be. And at that point, I was suspectful that he would be with me forever, but he was 12. I didn't really come to that realization really until he was probably 14 or 15 when it really hit me. And I think at that point, Dave and I had deeper conversations because obviously I said, "Look, this is my path,
Hmm.
and I'm going to be a forever mom, and this isn't your path. Like you don't have to say yes to this."
Hmm.
And lucky enough, he said yes to it.
I know. There's so many good men out there. I mean, people tease me all the time. They're like, "Does Josh have any brothers?" Or like, "Where are all the Joshes? Where's my Josh?" And Dave too. There, people are out there. I think you just, I mean, I relate so much to you saying, I just came to this conclusion, like, I'm just going to focus on being a mom and focus on myself and my life. And when I did that too, that's when I met Josh. I don't think if I had been on match.com and I was like looking, and
Right.
that always turned out terribly for me because these people were duds. It's just
Same.
like lunch and out. So like I'm never talking to this person again. I didn't care enough about dating to make that my focus. I cared about these little people that were relying on me
Yeah.
to, make sure they had a really good life. So I feel like when you step out of God's way, like the plan unfolds the way it's supposed to. And
Exactly.
we joke about the fact that if I had met him years earlier, I don't know that he would have been ready because he was going through his own stuff and dating and like just whatever. And he kind of swore off dating around this time that we met. And he was like, I don't know. When we were introduced, like, I don't
Isn't
know
that
if
funny?
I want to talk to
It's
her.
so funny because
I
and I have some single moms in our membership and I tell them like, "Listen, when you're not looking is when the right person will come." And I
know.
I think it's so important, one of the things first of all, staying I don't think staying in a marriage that's not helpful to you or your children is beneficial in any way. And, I have friends that have stayed in marriages that didn't have autism, that they stayed for the kids. And I just, my personal opinion is I don't think that's beneficial for
No.
anyone. I don't think it's healthy. I think, walking around a house where no one's communicating for 3 days because you're fighting is not healthy. And
Hmm.
so I always say that, you can do it on your own.
Hmm.
You can find a way to do it on your own. I mean, there were times that I worked 3 jobs and, just to be able to take care of them.
Hmm.
And but I was never disappointed that I divorced.
Hmm.
Like I knew even today, I know that that was the right thing. And Madison today will tell me like she doesn't even remember us being together at all, which
Yeah.
is perfect. That's exactly what I wanted, right? I didn't want her to ever remember a messy divorce. Every holiday while they were growing up, he would come to our house. We
Yeah.
did Christmas, we did birthdays. Like we got along for the benefit of them. And I think that was very helpful for her. She even says to me today at 25, Mom, there's a lot of dysfunctional families out there. And even though you and dad were divorced, I don't look back and feel like our family was dysfunctional in any way.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, like you, I feel like, I mean, that's what my whole second book is about, is my childhood. And I think we bring those experiences and those traumas and all of that stuff to our own parenting journey and our lives. And I said to myself exactly that. I was mid 30s, 3 and a 5 year old, and I was miserable. And I'm like, I am not going to do what my mom did, suffer through hell of a marriage just so that my sister and I would have nice prom dresses and the money to have a nice house and things like that. We would have traded living in a cardboard box for
Right.
staying in that family for our entire lives because of what it's done to us as adults and like
Right.
the stuff we've had to weed through. So it was more important for me to teach, both Kendall and Skylar, but essentially my daughter too, that you don't have to tolerate someone being disrespectful to you or just not loving you. You don't deserve that. You deserve better. And if it's being on your own, that's what you should do. I didn't want to look
Yeah.
back in my 50s and then get a divorce when they were
Right.
in their 20s and then try to find somebody for myself so I'm not alone for the rest of my life. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll just rip the band-aid off,
Exactly.
when
Like,
they're little.
well, and it's, I think a lot of that goes back to you choose your hard, right?
Hmm.
And so, yes, maybe making the decision to get divorced is hard, but staying is hard. So,
Hmm.
balance those out and decide which one, you're worth, which one you're willing to do. And
Hmm.
I think for you and I mean, we're willing to do it now and figure it out. And it might be hard. And, we might have to work 3 jobs to buy groceries, but you know what? We'll figure it out and we'll be happy.
Yeah,
And
you'll
I
be happy
think
doing it.
yeah, and I think like you and Josh and Dave and I, like, I think we're the perfect examples to our daughters about what happiness looks like in a relationship.
Hmm.
I
Because
mean,
we have fun.
Madison, right? Exactly. And
Yeah.
we do too. And Dave and I, like Madison will tell people like, "Oh, if we're going out with them, like just get ready because they talk to everyone, they make up stories. Like we just have fun, we have a happy life."
Hmm. Yes, I agree. So you had mentioned, and for the people who follow you and know, you have a membership group and a podcast, but you have a platform that's not your average autism mom where you do a podcast. You have a membership group. And can you tell people kind of what is involved in that membership and if conversations like this come up in addition to other things and what all is entailed with that?
Sure. So I talked about when Jordan was in second grade, the educational thing was just really bad, and I knew that I had to figure it out. So I spent 10 years building an educational advocacy company, learning everything I could about special education, and then when Jordan was 14 or 15, I started working with a life coach and it literally changed my life. I mean, I didn't, I had never been taught the things that I was learning about how my brain works and all of these things. And so, when I decided it was time for me to move on from the advocacy company, I worked with all families, right, with all different disabilities, differing abilities from Down syndrome, Prader-Willi, like
Hmm.
autism, like all kinds of things, dyslexia. But I knew that, my what I knew was autism, and
Hmm.
I knew that I really wanted to work with autism moms. And I knew that like, I wanted to build what I didn't have when I was raising Jordan, right? I wanted a community that understood. I wanted a place to talk about things that were happening behind closed doors that I had no one to talk to about because no one would understand that I was sleeping on a pillow outside of his door because he didn't sleep. That I had locks on all my cabinets, that I had doors locks that were reversed, that the fire department would have a heart attack if they knew I had done that, And so there were all these things that I didn't have a community. And then I knew the coaching piece was important because I knew what it had done for my life. And I wanted to share that with other moms that were on this same journey, learning to manage their emotions and the way they were feeling in moments of chaos, knowing that this is a bumpy road and there's going to be times when, they fall down in the middle of the parking lot and everyone's staring at you. You get to decide how you're going to show up in that moment.
Hmm.
And you can say, this sucks. This is chaos,
Hmm.
right? Right. I'm just going to be here and this is terrible. And then the other piece was I also knew that the special education piece was so important. So I wanted all three of those in one place, right? Community, coaching, and advocacy. And there wasn't any place that had all three. And so somebody told me years ago that, and this is just something that always stuck with me. Sometimes you have to build what you want for
Hmm.
yourself. And so I decided to build it. And I wanted to make sure that it was affordable for most families, because coaching can be very expensive. Advocacy is very expensive. Community, you can find community out there, but a lot of the communities that are out there are not, and I'll just say this, are not, they're not connected at the level that we are because we're not a community of 5,000. And so we all literally know each other on a personal level. Like we know each other's kids and we have moms from all over the country. But we spend a lot of time together. I do coaching every month, twice a month. We have coffee talks where we meet. We have happy hours where we meet. We, we have education hours where if you're having challenges with education, you can get on and ask your education questions to our advocate, who's our director of education. And we have a whole portal of training and resources on just so many things that they're going to need along their journey. And it's $44 a month. So it's literally $11 a week.
Hmm.
And I will tell you, I just did a podcast and a video with some of our members who have been with me a year, 2 years, and 3 years. We've been open 3 years. And so I have members that have been with me from the very beginning. And what they talked about was the community is the biggest thing for them. Like
Hmm.
they feel like, they're seen and they're heard, whether they've had a good day or a bad day. They know they can come in and get support from other moms who really know what they're dealing with because we've been on this journey with them, right? And then the coaching piece is, and I had several of them say, when I joined, I didn't realize how beneficial the coaching piece would be for me. Like
Is
how,
that one-on-one?
well, no, it's group
Okay.
coaching.
Okay.
It's group coaching. So every month I do a master class where I teach them something. And then once a month I do open coaching where they can come on and get coached about, anything that they have going on in their life. And I coach on everything from, organization to marriages to relationships with, siblings or, anything that's going on in their life. So it has been very beneficial, and I've had several of them. They really want me to open up and do one-on-one coaching, but I just haven't. With building it, I don't have the capacity to do that right now, not
Hmm.
yet, because I don't have a huge team or anything like that yet.
Hmm.
Um, so anyway, so yeah, that's what we do, and then I do have a podcast that I do weekly. And then I do community collectives, which is what I did with you, which
Hmm.
is basically those are our Facebook lives where I want to share other people within the autism community that are, what they're doing good in the autism world.
That's awesome. I mean, it's just, it never, um, it surprises me all the time, but it also never surprises me that when I have people on that are parents, and usually it's moms, no offense to dads, but
Right.
who identify a need for something like what you've done and they create it. Whether
Yeah.
it's a group home, they build it. Whether
Right.
it's like, the stuff that
Right.
you're talking about, the resources. And with you having um a child, quote unquote, because he's an adult, at that age, it's such a wealth of resources because that's why I even started my podcast before I wrote my book and did some of those things because I was trying to find you. I was trying to
Yeah.
find the people that were ahead of me to ask questions about the future things because I was stumbling upon puberty and all of these things before I met anybody who had a child that had gone through it.
Yeah.
And I use my voice. I feel like it's our obligation of having older kids to give back to the parents that are just getting the diagnosis today and that
Yes.
are, in the elementary years, and they're still trying to navigate things because as we know, it changes every day practically. You're not
Yes.
sleeping, then they're sleeping. There's always something, and it'll revolve around your child. And
Yes. Yes, it's always, and I always say, depending on what season you're in, like
mhm,
our podcast, I tell people, listen, it's not in any particular order. It's just what I feel like talking about.
yeah.
And so go in and scroll through until you find something that resonates with where you are in your journey. Because, and I think, yeah, that's the biggest thing is that, these young moms are getting this diagnosis. And while they're very lucky that the internet is here and it's vast. There's also a lot of not so good information out
Mhm,
there, and I think that, that's another thing. Like you go to the, developmental pediatrician or neuropsychologist or whatever, and they say, yep, your child has autism. Good luck.
I mean, there's
Re-
still, yeah, that's all you get
Still,
still.
still
Mhm,
to this day, which
mhm,
amazes me. And I'm like, I just feel like there was, and I always say, you will find therapies and resources and things like that for your child, but you need to take care of you along this journey because
mhm.
if you don't take care of you, you know, parent burnout is a real thing. Caregiver burnout is a real thing. And so taking care of yourself is so important along the way. And so our membership is really for them. It's for them because we know that if they understand special education, their child is going to get the services and education they need.
Mhm.
If they have the community support that they need, they're going to feel seen and heard and supported. And if they have the coaching tools and resources to make even those bad moments a little easier, it's going to help their journey.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, there's bad information, there's contradictory information, and I think the one thing that I always try to help parents understand is early intervention is key, but just pace yourself. It's not like you have to hurry and catch them up or meet some arbitrary timeline that the doctor or whoever told you, like if they're not doing this by this age, it's a
Right.
lost cause, because that's the stuff that ruined it for me. I was so focused on getting Skylar potty trained by 4 or 5 because if I didn't do it then, well, shit, he's 20 and he's
Yeah.
not toilet trained. So, and we're surviving just fine. But I spent so much time focusing on every little milestone that he was missing
Mhm.
that I missed a lot of him just being a kid and revealing for me how he better learned things, holding utensils, whatever it was. Instead of making him try to do it the way he's quote unquote supposed to,
Supposed to.
I just letting him be him and me learning about him and how to help him in the ways that he needed me to. So I just don't want people to be overwhelmed feeling that this is
Right.
now a full-time
It is
job
a
with a
long
4-year-old.
journey.
Mhm,
You have to pace yourself. And I think, one of the things that I really focus on, and I would really focus on one of our moms right now who I'm working with very closely, um, being present.
mhm,
Right? Like, just be present. Like, when you're there with him for the weekend and you're not going out to the pumpkin patch or, all the stuff that you see all the families doing on Facebook, it's okay. Like, he's not missing that. You are,
right. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, be present with him because he's happy crawling all over you on the floor,
yeah. That's
you
very
know?
true. It's all about perspective. It's not
It
about you.
is.
I mean, it's hard to not make it about you, but
It is, that's a
it's
big pill
not
to
about you.
swallow, but it's really, like, you have to really, like, enter their world and be part of that present, and I'll tell you, Lori, I mean, Jordan has made the most progress in his adult in the last 5 years
Yeah,
than he ever has.
I hear
I mean,
that so much. I'm
I
seeing it with Skylar too.
sometimes yeah, I sometimes have to pinch myself because 'cause I'm like, "Was that just that easy?" Like, he's 27. Now, granted, this is the stuff that I wanted to happen at 13,
Of
14, and
course.
15
Yeah.
that's happening at 27, but,
Mhm.
so many people basically just told me that, I mean, once he's 18, I mean, forget it. He's done. Like he's not going to learn anymore. He's not going to, and that is wrong,
Hmm.
wrong, wrong. More
Yeah.
growth in adulthood than I've ever seen in his entire journey.
Yep. I've seen so many things with Skylar just in this last year even too. And
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing with relationships in general. Just kind of touching back on that I was guilty of and sometimes still am, is when you get online, and yes, there are a lot of resources now, which is great, to ask your questions about autism in your child and all of that. Just be be mindful that people who put all the, that they're that the happy reel and the good stuff, that they did take their child to the pumpkin patch, and the mom and the dad and everybody's smiling and the siblings are playing, and like it just looks like a perfect scenario. It probably took them 50 to 60 tries to get that one photo, and I'm sure there was crying and screaming and hitting involved and like all of the things. So don't beat yourself up if you think that somebody's autism situation is better or easier than yours. I think when you
Yeah.
said in the beginning, like, why can't I have the nice kid?
Yeah.
I don't know that there are any kids that have it all together every day, nor moms. I mean,
Right.
there are moments that Skylar, I'm so blessed, and it's hard to not compare my situation to others who have fecal smearing and things going on that I haven't had to
Yes.
experience. I feel so badly for them, and I can't imagine going through that. But, I have hard
Every
days
one
too
of
that they
our
don't have to deal with, I'm sure. So,
Yeah, every one of our hard is different.
mhm,
But we all have them, right?
yeah.
We all have them in our own ways, like, I was laughing because Jordan was he was naughty. He was just naughty. And as he got into his teenage years, he had a thing and he would flip the bird. Like, he would flip the bird 100 times a day. We had behavioral charts. He would flip the bird at everyone that would look at him or say anything to him. That was his go-to. He would flip the bird. And literally, like, and I've told this story a few times, but when he graduated high school, um, he graduated with a special diploma in the state of Florida. And
Oh,
so he was able to walk across the stage. But what they did was they didn't make him, it was in a big arena, the Silver Spurs arena, and they didn't make him sit out in the seats with everyone. They kept him in the back and let him play on his iPad at that time. And we thought that was going to be really good. And he would be the last one. They'd bring him out, let him walk across. And Lori, we're sitting in the arena and I see them walk him out, and I can just tell his body language. I'm like, this is not going to be good. This is
mm.
absolutely not going to be good. And I can just see his body tensing and him moving. And he literally walked up on the stage, got his diploma, and flipped the bird the whole way across the stage to the whole audience.
I love it.
well, well, let me
Screw
just
this
tell you,
place.
my daughter's phone was literally text message blowing up. Your brother is the coolest ever. And of course, I'm telling everyone he was
You're
giving the
probably
Longhorn
mortified.
sign. He was giving the Longhorn sign. That's what I went with. But we literally have a picture of him on stage in a cap and gown in the middle of the arena, flipping the bird across the stage.
I'm sure there are plenty of kids there that graduated that wanted to do the
That
same
wanted
thing
to do it, right?
at the
But
administration or something.
Jordan was always the one that got away with stuff, right? Because he was Jordan.
I love it. I mean, that is, if that isn't like a perfect description of our kids just being who they are, I
Right,
don't know
like,
what is.
he could have cared less who was out there, how many people were out there, it did not even matter to him. He
I
was
bet
like,
everyone
"I don't
laughed.
wanna be here, and I'm just gonna tell everyone that I don't wanna be here right now."
Oh my gosh. Well, in closing with the bird in mind. No, I'm just kidding. um, so as I've said, I mean, you've been on this journey 7 years longer than me. And you've been married and remarried and single and all of the things. Is there anything that either tell your moms and the people in your membership, or that you would just want to share with the listeners about what you've learned about yourself as a person, as a mom, just kind of going through all of the things? We're always wiser as the years go on and we learn from our
Absolutely.
mistakes and things. So is there anything you would tell anyone maybe who's out there just kind of struggling to feel put together or like get through these times of either marriage or their child that they're struggling right now?
Yeah, I think number one, again, I think you have to choose your heart. So if you're contemplating leaving a marriage that's not good, think about staying is going to be as hard as leaving. So I think that you have to choose your hard. I also think that choosing to put your children first, that was, I think, one of the best things that I ever did for me. Is I chose to put them first because growing up, my parents did not put me first. And that was something that I always swore that I was going to do
Hmm.
um, because I wasn't. And so I think that, but I will also say that you have to find your happiness within yourself before you can find happiness with somebody else. The way you talk to yourself is very important. Pay
Hmm.
attention to the things that you're saying to yourself. I always tell my moms, like, I know there's parts of this journey that are hard. I've been through them. But when you're telling yourself day in and day out how hard everything is, that's all you're going to see.
Yep.
So you have to look for the good moments. You have to look for the moments that were a little easier than last time, because when you start to look for those moments, you'll start to see them more easily.
I love that. What a great reminder. I mean, it's perspective. It's all about
Yeah, it
perspective. And
is. It is perspective, and it is, and I tell people, look, my coaching is not about positive thinking or being happy all the time, or we don't have mantras that we say. Like, we're living life, and life is 50-50, and some days are just not good. It's just how it is. But again, you just have to know that you've gotten through so many of them, and while they may look different, you'll get through these too.
And more times than not, you're an inspiration to other people, whether you know it or not, because they are watching
Absolutely.
you like, I don't know how you did that. Like,
Yes.
so, oh, that's lovely. Don't beat yourself up.
Yes,
Find something to
exactly.
smile about every single day and you'll be okay.
Absolutely. And you know what? Be proud of yourself. I tell people, you know, I I tell myself on a pretty regular basis that I'm amazing. I don't need somebody else to tell me I'm amazing. I just tell myself, and even when I don't believe it, it just definitely feels pretty good.
It does. It does.
So, even, and I tell my moms, look, write down 3 reasons you were a great mom today.
Mhm.
Look, that might be because I fed my kids dinner,
'Cause
because I went through and,
I took a
I
shower. I'm
right,
just
I
kidding.
took a shower. No, but exactly, right? And so, and I was this mom that I'm working with pretty closely. It's funny you say that. I took a shower because she's like, "Some days I don't shower." And I said, "Okay, does that make you a bad mom?" No. Some days good moms don't shower. Right? That's
Yeah.
okay. Give yourself grace. And you know what? And the days that you do shower, celebrate that. I was a good mom today because I showered.
Think that's gonna be my quote for this episode is good moms sometimes don't take showers.
Absolutely. There you go. It's
That wraps
true.
it all up for me.
It's true. It's true, right?
Oh man, Shannon, I swear we are like kindred spirits. We have
Yes,
even our childhoods. We gotta dive more into that.
we do. Listen, we
There's
need
so
to
many
talk more about your
similarities.
book.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's in the editing stage right now. So and my sister is also helping edit and fact check because she has the steel trap of a memory. I mean, it's
Yeah, that's
ridiculous
my
how much she
problem.
remembers.
My memory is not like
Yeah.
super good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm anxious for it to come out. So anywho,
Super exciting.
well, thank you so very much. And I will link up your not your average autism mom information so people can
Perfect.
reach out to you and express more interest in your membership and listen to your podcast and all the things you got going on. And thank you so much for being such a positive influence in this community. We need more moms
Aw.
speaking out and helping each other. And all of that. So I
Absolutely. That's what
embrace
it's
it.
all about. That's what it's all about. And I think sharing our stories, that's what it does, right?
Hmm.
And just real quick before we close, I just wanted to say, so I was just thinking about, because I have a lot of people say to me all the time, you know, is this going to be me when my child is 27 and their child's 6? And I just want to say, my journey is not necessarily going to be anyone else's journey. Like,
Yeah,
your child may go off to a college program. You know, your child, there's so many things that they might do, but
right.
just, I always say, but if not, just know that it's not that bad,
Yeah. I
right?
mean,
Like,
yeah,
I'm living a pretty happy life, even though I'm raising my 27-year-old son.
because again, to what you said, it's a choice. I
Yes.
choose to not, wallow in, oh, woe is me.
For
Skylar can't
me.
speak and, he's living with me. I would rather have him not be, arrested or like drunk
That's right.
driving or
That's
doing something that I have to worry about him. So
We had totally different worries for our sons versus our daughters,
I
right?
know,
Like driving the first time, going to college, going to parties. Like we didn't have to worry about any of that with our sons.
I know it. I had to worry about it once.
That's right. Exactly. Same.
Well, have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you so very much.
Thanks, Lori. You too.
Take care.
Bye.